First call.
Yes. Yeah.
That was just first call.
Run.
No, I couldn't get in there. The time is 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we're going to begin this evening with some oaths of office. To begin with, we have a fire oath of office for promotional appointment of engineer Robert Fielding to lieutenant, effective January 27th, 2020.
Hi, how are you? I'm going to have you stand on this side so that people can look at you. And you can use this one. Please. Okay, right. Sorry. Would you please raise your right hand? And I'll be talking. I, Robert Fielding,
I, Robert Fielding,
having been duly promoted to the rank of lieutenant of the fire department
have been duly promoted to the rank of lieutenant of the fire department
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and I will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
and will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
and the city of Moline,
and the city of Moline,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of lieutenant
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of lieutenant
of the fire department for the city of Moline, Illinois,
of the fire department for the city of Moline, Illinois,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then we'd like to have a picture with your family. Thank you. Thank you.
That'd be a trivia question. First on camera.
Oh, hey, yeah. That would be good.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Lieutenant? Thank you.
Well deserved. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Oh, you get the question.
Now, Mayor, we have 3 oaths of office for probationary appointment to police. The first is for Sarah Akkad.
You get to read one and I'll read one.
Okay.
You read it.
Okay.
Would you please raise your right hand? I, Sarah Ockett,
I, Sarah Ockett,
having been duly appointed as a probationary police officer
having been duly appointed as a probationary police officer
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States
do solemnly swear that I support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
and the city of Moline,
and the city of Moline,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of a probationary police officer
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
yet.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And then Sarah, do you have your family here? Could you all join her up here? We'll grab a picture of you. Your loved ones, they don't have to be related.
Whoever you want.
Yeah, please.
Just tell her. Oh, sorry. Congratulations.
Now we have probationary appointment as police officer of Andrew Dotterer.
Hi, Andrew. This one's yours. Would you please raise your right hand? I, Andrew Dutter,
I, Andrew Dotter,
having been duly appointed as a probationary police officer
having been duly appointed as a probationary police officer
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
and the city of Moline,
and the city of Moline,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary police officer
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thank you for You have a good chair.
I don't claim.
You get that one. All right, now everybody wants to shake your hand. Thank you.
Congratulations. More great hair in Moline, right?
Congratulations.
Definitely has to be up there.
She's gonna.
Come on, don't be shy. Have a place.
Typical.
All right, ready? Thank you. Congratulations.
You're smiling back there. I
Oh, no, you did.
And we have oath of office for probationary appointment as police officer to Pedro Herrera.
Get this copy. Get this copy. Please raise your right hand. I, Pedro Herrera,
I, Pedro Herrera,
having been duly appointed as a probationary police officer
having been duly appointed as a probationary police officer
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States
do solemnly swear that I will support the constitutions of the United States
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
will strictly adhere to the laws of the state of Illinois
and the city of Moline,
and the city of Moline,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary police officer
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary police officer
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Thank you. I'm gonna keep one here.
Sweet. Okay, do I keep this one?
Yeah, but I want you to sign it. Well, I guess you could sign it.
Yeah.
Good luck. Okay.
When you got on board here.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much.
So you have one. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Welcome aboard.
Congratulations. Welcome.
What's that? I know they sound like they're not here to see.
3 rows. Thank you for coming, everyone. Thank you for your support.
That was it.
I was thinking, man,
We walked this guy and was thinking the same thing. I noticed that too.
everybody but
While the audience is transitioning, does anyone have any questions on the agenda this evening? I don't think we have any other. I lost JD. I don't think we have any other this evening. And so we're beginning tonight. We have a couple of informationals, and then we're going to go into the work session. So we'll begin here in a second with an informational regarding life stories.
It's kind of echoey.
Carol Barnes, Finance Director, Randy Haley, Utility Revenue and Mapping Manager, and David Rowat,
That's cool.
Network Database Administrator. Are we going to do an informational on the broadcasting too? Where's Don? He's right here. Okay, well, we're going to impromptu do that. So live stories first. I'm adding an item to the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
We are very excited to be at the point tonight to where we are in a position to launch live stories out on the city's website with council's approval. And so tonight we're wanting to actually walk you through what it is exactly going to look like out on our website. And for the duration of the presentation, as a result, we are actually bringing the link up live on the website, and we're going to keep it up live for a couple of hours following the meeting in case you would all like to take a look and try to access it on your own. But we do ask that during the duration of the presentation, if you would just follow along with us on the large monitor, we'd really appreciate that. And then to test it out after the meeting. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to David and Randy, and they're going to walk us through how to access the link, as well as to show you how to access our budget to actuals.
So we've added access to the site, 2 sections on our homepage. The first being the transparency graphic link. This right now takes us to all the other public record options that we have from the website, FOIA requests, all those other type of things people might be looking for. So we've added right here at the top. This list is alphabetical, so budget reports just happen to go at the top of the list, luckily. There's a link right from the text here that takes us out to the live stories page. The other area is the spotlight section of the home page down here, and similar information here, and also a link that will take us to that reports page that they have made, as you can see, kind of follow the structure and color scheme of our current website design. And I will let Randy then discuss the reports on the page.
Thank you, David. I'll try and be brief. We just wanted to go through another demonstration, especially with this being a broadcast, to kind of relay to everybody how to navigate the site. So here we are on the landing page, and you really have two different options for how you can access the 4 different reports that we've put together. You have your navigation button up top that lists the 4 reports. The end user can also scroll down here, and we have pictures that are hyperlinks to the 4 reports. Something that's important to highlight that's changed since the last time this was demonstrated, at the bottom you'll see 2 new disclosures. The first one being the option to subscribe to Moline Finance News by going to this Notify Me option. That way the end user can receive an email notification letting them know every time we update our financial information. This Notify Me option also gives the option for them to subscribe to other departments within the city. So we just felt that it was important to add this to the website as enhanced communication and transparency. We also added a disclosure to the bottom that lets the end user know that this isn't optimized in Internet Explorer, just trying to mitigate frustrations of the end user if they are trying to launch this particular site using that web browser. So the top 2 reports are our revenue and expense. That is our rolling 10-year budget information. Since you last viewed this, we had our 2010 through 2019 data. That's been updated now. 2010's dropped off. We've added our 2020 information. And so if we click in here, I'll just go into revenue. Expense, it's set up the exact same way. So for time savings, I won't go through that and duplicate that. So once we get into here, there's a default view that the graphic comes up in, and it's going to be an area graph once it loads. Up top, it's going to give us the option to actually have this in a bar graph or a pie chart. It also has the option up top, hopefully it loads soon, to where we can toggle back and forth between seeing the data in either the dollar format or a percentage format. So it allows us to kind of play around with what's visually appealing to the end user. It also is going to break down all of those revenues and expenditures. Both of them are in 7 main categories. Let me see if I can refresh this.
Maybe go out and go back in or refresh.
And we already put the Chrome.
We're in the gray. Yeah, we're in the gray.
It was.
No, I'm sorry, it's not Flash. No, it's HTML5. That's why it doesn't work great in Internet Explorer. But this looks like it's something down on Live Story's side.
Yeah, it's all the options.
I'll take the blame for this, David, because they convinced me to do this live, and I was like, I thought we were going to have this all running off a thumb drive, and they're like, no, live's the best way to do it, and I didn't ask them if something like this could happen.
I apologize. I think it is. It's the Live Stories website happens to be down.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Happen from time to time. So.
Oh, I take the blame. I didn't ask the right questions.
Yeah, I think this is live. So this is a representation of live. But we're all familiar with what the reports look like. So at least we know where the locations are, and you have already vetted the data, right? And so the data looks good. And so how are we going to market it to the community? I mean, obviously we have a small group here tonight, but are we going to do a press release, or what are your thoughts?
I guess I could kind of take your lead on that. We are going to be putting it out notification on our Facebook page. And I talked with Live Stories, and they also have access just from clients on how to distribute things on social media. So we're gonna be using that, and then I'll be looking for your advice too on how you'd like it to be distributed.
Well, I'd like to offer, I think it'd be appropriate to do those things, and if you send out, if you create a post for us and then you send it out, then we can distribute it to all our contacts and kind of do it that way organically. But I think a press release would be helpful too, because then the people that are reporting on the city have that information as well.
Okay, no, we'd be happy to. And I would also like to say, our goal is that at about 3 to 4 weeks following the end of each month, that's when we hope to have updates available out on the website. And we are also going to put a little disclosure out there when we do the update, because it's a snapshot in time, and we're going to show the actual date that we pulled the information from. Because for instance, like December, we're hoping to have that out now in the next 10 days. But as you know, we're going through our audit over the next 4 months. So it's going to be a snapshot of December. Those numbers will stay out on the website for a month, and then we'll do the same. We'll pull January and then proceed month to month. So, but we are really excited about it. And I apologize here that live data is not available. And I also appreciate so much with Randy and David all the work that they have done. I'm sorry we couldn't show it to you tonight, but they've done a lot of hard work to make this happen.
I think Alderman Schoonmaker had a question.
Yeah, good work. I love the transparency. That extra step is going to be very nice. Unfortunately, what do you do? It happens. Will we have the ability? Sometimes there's some odd things that were unplanned that come in the budget. So maybe we get a grant. Maybe there's an unforeseen expense that makes the budget look way off. Will we have the ability to footnote those so that there's? Yes?
That's a very, very good question. In fact, we were just talking about that earlier, that I think what we're going to do is to plan to have a little link to go to frequently asked questions.
Okay.
So if we know that there are big changes that maybe have been asked by a number of citizens, or just that we know is a big change in the budget, we'd like to put those out.
Yeah, I think when you're giving all the transparency, but then something is off, it raises a red flag. So if we could, before people get alarmed, oh, I see here it's a big unexpected expense. It was planned for next year, but we had to move it to this year. So, something that helps to clarify that a little bit would be great.
That's a very good question. What we'll do too, I think we'll just continue to build on, as we get questions, we'll just have more frequently asked questions.
Good.
So, we'll keep a log of those. So,
Does anyone else have any questions? All right, is the council comfortable with us going live to the public with the information?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's accurate.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your work on this.
We appreciate your support and your patience on getting this launched. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I did want to invite Don. Can you give us a little overview of what will be happening with the broadcasting of the sessions?
Good evening. Basically, we've added some equipment in to give a live broadcast of the council chambers eventually. Right now, we are going to be recording it and then displaying it both on our social media as well as our MediaCom channel the following day, and it will play a few times over the week.
Don, can you show us what the image will look like, what's being recorded? Can you put that up on the screen, or is that not possible?
I can do that.
Thank you. And have you done tests to see if the audio comes across okay?
Yes, I have done those.
So if one of us is absent from a meeting, what's the process? Is there like a link that you go to remotely on your computer?
It's a WebEx link, and you'll be getting that via email.
Okay. Oh, we're tiny.
And that is actually the live image that's recording now.
Oh yeah, they got my good stuff.
And that's what people will be able to click on and see.
Yeah, but I added 10 phones.
So I actually lowered it down to 720p just for size.
Okay.
It will actually go up to 1080 full HD. So.
Okay. And I've seen in some communities broadcasts like this or recordings of this, they break it up by what the conversation item is. Are we going to be so sophisticated as to be able to do that?
We could be able to stop and start this at will, so we can do whatever you guys feel that you want to do. I just need some direction on what you want.
Okay, great.
Nice.
Thank you.
Any questions? And so next week, it'll still be recorded, or else it'll be a live
I will
broadcast?
speak with our vendor to see about the secondary stream on that, and as soon as that's up and running, we'll be able to go live.
Okay, but can we go and look at it this week if we wanted to check it out to see how the audio is and everything?
Sure.
How do we get to it?
I will be emailing you that link, and I can turn that on for testing purposes whenever you like.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions? All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Don, for doing that. Spread moment. Now we're going to go into our work session. This work session is to focus on goal number 5, enhanced relationships with existing businesses in Moline. Sally Heffernan, our Economic Development Special Projects Director, will be guiding the discussion this evening.
Good evening. Thank you for asking me to address 2 of my favorite topics, communications and economic development. I think it's a laudable goal for a city council to want to be more communicative with their business community. So I hats off to you for that. I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight. You know, I haven't been here very long, so I wasn't sure exactly what communication tools you were currently using. And I wasn't sure if everyone around the table would know what communication tools staff is currently using. So I've asked them to, okay, excuse me. I think I'm doing that right.
We can.
So I've divided this up into 3 sections. It reminded me a little bit of Google Maps. Where are we? Where do we want to be? And how do we get there? So I've asked a few friends to come tonight and talk a little bit, and staffers, of course, who hopefully are friends, to talk a little bit tonight about what the city currently does to communicate with business. And first up is Jeff Manus.
Hello, Council. It's an honor to have an opportunity to take a few moments to, I guess, kind of update you on some of the things I've been up to the last 9 or 10 months or so since I came on board as the Moline Center Main Street Manager. It's been an exciting 9 or 10 months between the events that have happened over this past calendar year to some of the business connections that I've been able to establish during that time. The events, for starters, have been wonderful through a good deal of luck and the grace of God and a bunch of individuals really coming together. We've had a great year for events, which undoubtedly directly complement and serve our downtown businesses and stakeholders. Whether it's the Thursday Night Summer Concert Series, we were able to go 14 for 14 for those concerts this year. In addition to that, I was working with additional downtown businesses to be able to take part and cater or vend to the patrons of these Thursday Night Summer Concert Series. Another great way for a business owner like Galena Brewing Company or Bent River or Beer Stuvie, and the list goes on, to capitalize off these free community concerts that we put on. You ask any of the vendors that I brought in from outside of Bass Street Landing, and all of them, I would have no doubt had some really wonderful, I guess, praise towards having the ability to make extra revenues for those Thursday Night Summer Concert Series. In addition to that, the Holiday Hop was wonderful. It experienced record-breaking crowds. There was 41 businesses that participated in it. That's business connections right there. Every last one of them, some more than others, some a lot more than others, needed a lot of, I guess you could call it that business connection hand-holding to come up with something new and fun that will draw people into their businesses. Again, it was truly record-breaking crowds through social media. It experienced quadrupled interest. Another good indicator would be the last year the trolley had 22 people ride on it. This year he lost count after about 15 minutes. He estimated thousands of people jumped on and off that trolley throughout the night. So, and the list goes on. Lining on the Commons also experienced record-breaking crowds. The Cabin Fever Pub Crawl that had 10 participating downtown businesses. That was a great spike of the football for downtown Moline. I guess the Moline Center sanctioned events. In addition to that, the merchant meetings have been a really great way to directly communicate and interact with our downtown businesses, both large and small. They have undoubtedly grown in size, and there is momentum behind them. Again, if you were to ask some of the businesses that had a long history of interacting with these merchant meetings, all of them would say that there's larger numbers turning out for these. Some of the topics that I built into the agenda for these monthly merchant meetings was an incredible presentation by Police Chief Darren Galt about business crime prevention. It was very, very engaging. He's one heck of a public speaker, so he delivered it seamlessly. We had business internet connectivity from our friends at Geneseo Communications. Kevin Stewart specifically was the individual that came and talked to the businesses about ways to improve and enhance and get more internet connectivity to their place of business, so there's no and there's never any downtime. As we all just witnessed, computers are great when they work, right? We also had Quad City Storm come in and give a presentation on their 2019-2020 professional hockey season, a hard hat tour of the Axis Hotel. J.D. Schulte, actually, we were honored to have him participate in one and kind of give the downtown merchants kind of an update as to what's happening with the I-74 bridge project, and the list goes on. So some of the upcoming monthly merchant meetings that we're going to be facilitating are going to be an informational on the micro loan business program that City Council has recently factored into their budget. That's going to be kind of step one to start rolling that out to these businesses to see if there is any interest in I guess delivering Moline's ability to help them through this complicated time in road construction in downtown Moline. We're also going to work with Mr. Mathias to talk about the facade improvement program. Some of the other businesses who have maybe not participated in it yet, we're going to put together a real good informational on that, and the list goes on. It's been, again, a lot of momentum behind these monthly merchant meetings, and then business connections in a Main Street program. That's undoubtedly the most important thing, or step one of any effective Main Street program. It's incredibly important to get all of our downtown businesses and stakeholders all moving in the same direction, and it's genuinely probably my most favorite part of the job. I've never necessarily been called a wallflower, so getting out there, door knocking, shaking hands, getting to know some of these business owners and stakeholders that I didn't already know has been a professional dream come true. So that's kind of it at a glance, just when we kind of zero in on the business connections for what the Moline Center's been up to lately. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Jeff.
Or if any come up, by all means, I'll be happy to stand back up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Next, we're going to ask Jeff Anderson to talk a little bit about promotion.
Thank you, Sally. Good evening. Going to zoom out a little bit, and a few things might zoom back in. And some of what I'm going to share with you is from firsthand participation. Some of this is observational. So if you have questions, I'll try to put it in the appropriate context. When we first started talking about this, there really are a number of ways in which the city, and from my point of view, city staff reach out directly to businesses. But when trying to kind of categorize these, it gets a little tricky. But I came up with a couple categories. I'm going to focus on the first one, which I'm calling primary, or which really is intentional and direct one-on-one contact. And in some cases, this can take a couple different forms. And I'll also say, while there is not, I can't show you a formalized process, procedure, or council-approved policy like we have an economic development policy that tells us how to provide incentives in certain situations. So hopefully maybe that's something we can work towards, but I think there has been a level of expectation that these things occur, and if you want to talk about, for instances, we can go into that, or maybe that's down the road a little. But would like to identify meeting with businesses to discuss economic incentives for a project. And that can be proactive in terms of reaching out to a business that staff may have heard of, or it could be reactive in terms of perhaps one of you referring something to us. But I think the key point there is that kind of one-on-one environment, sitting down with somebody and sharing information that may be beneficial to their particular project or business. I also, coming out of the development field, may somewhat slip back and forth between talking about developers and businesses. I think in some cases they can be synonymous. In other cases, one may be representing or working with the other, but not the same. So I'll just kind of add that caveat. We also, which I think is a very important business service, but perhaps not an incentive per se, although can ultimately provide in realizing financial savings, is providing regulatory guidance. You know, oftentimes, as they say, time is money, or, you know, cut once, measure twice, cut once kind of thing. And that, again, is something that our office can reach out and provide proactively, although in that case it may be more reactive in terms of people coming to us. But again, providing regulatory guidance to the business and development community is another way we do that. Meeting with businesses for relationship building or specific project development. And I have seen and or participated in terms of both what you might call cold calling, as well as more warmed or, you know, building on an existing relationship. But the idea of inviting somebody out for a cup of coffee, having lunch, or inviting them here to discuss a project, either for the purpose of advancing a project or for building a relationship. There are a couple of developers, and again, this may move away a little bit from working directly with a business, but at a minimum contains a kind of tangential business relationship. And there are some developers in the community that Gorman Companies, who has made investment after investment after investment, where staff had, and it's a two-way street. So sometimes they reach out to them, to us, staff has reached out to them in pursuit of adding value to the local economy, seeking out projects, those kind of things. Something we're going to hear more about in a minute that I would still include under this kind of primary or intentional one-on-one is the Chamber's business connection visit. And while that format may have evolved over the years, it still is a significant one-on-one opportunity both to provide information, and that may be incentives or other type of guidance to a local business, or to hear questions that they have, which will hopefully provide information back to them, or perhaps a longer conversation and relationship. So those are kind of the more proactive one-on-one direct twos that staff has practiced. There's a couple other things I at least want to mention before I back away from the podium here. And for lack of better terms, I'm going to call this secondary or maybe intentional but incidental. And staff, as well as the council, because I think we see each other at many of these events, but nonetheless provide opportunities to work with local businesses, to touch local businesses, share information, chamber networking events. So we may not be reaching out to a specific business, but are intentionally going to an event with the intention of meeting with, relating to, providing information to businesses in the community. Another similar form is speaking to businesses. And I know myself, past development staff have participated in that realm, and I think a number of you have probably invited staff at times to come speak to a group. Sometimes it may be with a specific business intention to advance a project in a part of the community, or types of projects in a particular location in the community. Another kind of type of activity along with that staff participates in is conducting business or development related workshops. And this can be kind of a broad category. It could be teaching a class as an adjunct. It could be something Ray Forsyth and I have done for a number of years, is working with the Midwest Community Development Institute, where we take time out to teach a class session, provide a tour of downtown Moline with real life examples for how to do development, how to plan for development, how to finance development. And again, that particular item is, it tends, maybe not exclusively, tends to be geared towards economic development professionals, but I think it spreads goodwill, it opens up our community to other people and kind of gets the word out, and I would include that in that kind of economic and business development activity. And then I'll wrap up with things that these admittedly are not what I'd call proactive. Well, they may be proactive. They're not direct one-on-one business assistance per se, but I think we have tried with council's support and direction, and for me personally anyway, still have much to learn. But in terms of utilizing social media to put information out in terms of development incentives, development assistance, and other development-related activities, using the city website, using traditional media. We'll still do that, whether it's the newspaper, radio, on-air interviews for television, again, to promote certain activities, many of which are business or development related. And then finally, contacting, and not by the least in any way, but contacting or responding to businesses through our economic development partners. Some are here tonight, Renew Moline, the Chamber of Commerce, state agencies, federal agencies, elected officials are another avenue that we do pursue to push information out. Maybe another example, somewhat tangential, but it's still something we do on an ongoing basis, is our relationship with state and federal agencies for grant funding. And typically in that process, we are obliged to reach out to the elected official or their staff to seek their support, to explain our project, tell them why it's worth their support, and oftentimes we find ourselves asking, are there other things we could be made aware of, or is there something you need to know about this, to get that information out there, build a wider audience for our kind of sphere of influence in economic development activity. So I'll leave it at that. If you have questions, I'll certainly be here, or you know where to find me, but kind of a quick summary of what we have been doing for a baseline, I guess. Thank you.
Alderman Berg maybe has a question for you?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Can you tell me, are we still doing do we still have different groups going out to the businesses on chamber ribbon cuttings? We started it, and I didn't know if we...
I honestly don't know. We left off with the previous city administrator with a distribution list. I think there are some of us who attend more regularly. I'm sorry, I can't tell you with those lists of 4 or 5 department heads who were rotating if that is still happening or not.
We haven't had one in a while.
We have not. That's why I was wondering.
But my expectation is we're continuing on with that. What
We still do, yeah. But,
Macy coordinates that, yes.
Okay.
but when I get the list, I haven't seen one in Moline for
right.
several weeks.
Right.
Perhaps I'm struggling to answer.
Right. And maybe updating the chamber, because I think the chamber has like an old, because I see some other old council members that are on there, maybe, I don't know, making sure you guys are on that distribution list.
Yeah, we do get that, and then sometimes the businesses themselves, if they're not chamber members, will contact us directly.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sometimes, if the businesses are not members of the chamber, they'll contact us directly. Otherwise, we do get that information from the chamber.
Okay, all right, wonderful. And then I had another question, and I forgot what it was.
Well, we'll come back to you. Alderman Nguyen had a question?
With going out and reaching out to the community, doing those visits and stuff, I think at one point we had kind of talked about having like a list and putting them like on a program so that we made sure that we hit them regularly. Do we have that in like, and if we do, what is is it to hit them once a year? Is it to hit them touch base quarterly or?
I think you're gonna hear a little bit more about that with the business connection and at the risk of stealing up somebody else's thunder, I'll let Sally and
We're going to talk about that.
Liz and Michelle take
We're going to look for some guidance from you.
Is that it for Jeff, for now?
Pardon?
I just want to make sure that
I'm
everybody
sorry.
had asked Jeff's questions. Okay.
Try not to run off too far.
Next up is Chris Mathias. One of the things we'd been asked to address was project communication, pre-project communication, and Chris has been doing that, and he'll talk a little bit about the process.
I'm going to talk specifically about some of our infrastructure projects on the Public Works end. So I'd like to think when JD brought me over to Public Works, it's been more than 2 years now. He really saw in me kind of the idea of bringing more of a customer service approach to some of the things they're doing over there. I probably say this to a lot of people, but that's one of the things I enjoy most about my job is going out there and just kind of proving to people that, whoa, like the city actually cares about this, you know? So it really gave me, and we know as staff people that's, we know how it is from a staff perspective. Like people think that, you know, they think, oh, they don't answer the phone and they don't return voicemails or things like that. So I really enjoy going out there and proving that every day. I get a lot of satisfaction from that. And so as I got over there and started realizing what we need to do, I mean, just so you know, I mean, for every infrastructure project we have, even if we're just putting a water main down a street, we have to have signed permission from every person on that street, for the most part, 95% of the people on that street, to be on their property to do the work. So if we're going to be out there anyway asking them to sign something, the first call should be from me as kind of that outreach person saying, hey, this project's coming, you know, we need to do this project here, but I want to meet with you to show you the plans, and I want to find out any questions you have, concerns you have about it, before we even start asking them to sign things or for their permission or whatever it is. So we've really taken that approach, and one of the things we've changed, I guess, is instead of showing up with, you know, just a set of plans, is really trying to tailor for each property these exhibits that show exactly what's going to happen on their property. Are their trees going to be removed? Is their driveway going to be replaced? All the things that might matter to them, so you can show up with kind of a, rather than show them on an engineered plan, you know, here's your little speck of a house or whatever. So that's one thing we really tried to change, and like I said, make it more of a customer service aspect of, here's my card, you can call me, you're going to have your city inspector out here during the project, but just keep in mind you have other people to call about this. Because I can assure you that a construction project is always this fluid thing where it's things are subject to change based on a contractor or weather or other things like that. So it's really something we've tried to bring to the process, just to make it so we can hear what they have to say and any concerns that they would have, and keep that going throughout the project, because we're talking about a 4-month project sometimes. So to keep those open dialogues there. And I know the other thing they wanted me to talk about was we've had a number of these fiber optic cable runs throughout the city, and so we've thought about ways we can kind of improve that, because we have people out there that aren't getting permits. We have some entities that aren't like Mid-American. I mean, Mid-American can go do whatever they want to do. They've got a franchise agreement. They don't need to run through me to get a permit. But we started to realize we were getting a lot of calls about, why is my yard, why are all these drawings, you know, spray paint out in front of my yard, why is this crew digging? And so we've made it now where if they're going to come through us to get a permit, they've got to go out the entire route, notify every resident on the route of what they're going to be doing, whether that's through door hangers, letters, however they want to do that. And they've got to communicate with us before the project starts so that we can be prepared for, like I said, it's staff time dealing with the calls, but it's also more importantly just the residents knowing what's going on if they see their yard being dug up, or what they think is their yard. Might actually be city right away, but trying to get out ahead on some of those things. So those are the two of the things I wanted to talk to you about, I guess, on the infrastructure end of how we're reaching out, and happy to answer any questions you have on that.
And the nomenclature, his term residents, it's the residents, the businesses, our business partners, or whatever. It's whoever's along that thoroughfare, or ever in that area that we're doing the work. It's not just the homeowners, but it's the business partners as well.
Right, and my concern usually is more when they're going through, because those are going through neighborhoods sometimes, as opposed to going down a major route, so. But that is true, it's everybody along the route.
Alderman Parker has a question?
This is great information, and I'm sure it's appreciated. Is this on the website so that people other than the person living in that house knows what's going on?
I don't know if those are not on the website. I can tell you that those personal exhibits that we do, because we do those for each property. I don't even know if our plans are on the website.
There'll be a high level version of it on the Onward Moline spotlight. So if you go out, you can drill down in and see who the contractor is, what the magnitude of the project is, the footprint of it, kind of the construction limits, that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you.
That's where? Where's that?
It's on Onward Moline, so it's one of those spotlight on the bottom of the web page.
Is it a map so that I could I don't know what the project is, but I know that on my street there's something.
And it'll either have a little dump truck if it's a construction project. It'll have an image of a vertical structure if it's like a new development project or something like that.
Thank you. Great. That's cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information and the effort.
One of the best things about coming back to the Quad Cities is getting to reconnect with old friends. Liz Murray Tolman and I worked together for the 13 years I was here in when I was working for Rock Island, and it's great to be working with Liz again. Liz is the Chief Economic Development Officer for Quad Cities First, which is part of the Quad City Chamber, and she's here to talk about the Business Connection business, which I think is something we're going to be able to build on. So I'm happy that Liz and also Michelle Lewis, who's actually coordinates those visits, are here to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, Sally. Sally and I were in our teens when we first started working together doing economic development. Thank you so much. I like what you've done with the place. It looks really good in here since last time I've been here. It's great, the new technology and everything. Thank you so much for letting us attend tonight. I'm going to be brief, I hope. And Michelle Lewis is really our person who does our business connection calls, and so if there are questions, we can bring her up to the podium as well. But Quad Cities First, as you know, is a regional economic development organization. We're a public-private partnership, of which you are a part of that. We are the economic development arm under the regional chamber, but we do work with it's kind of a separate entity, a 501c6 that is a public and private entity. We basically have two functions. One, business attraction, and that is to try to attract new businesses and or investment to the region. We market on a national scale and in some cases on an international scale, trying to drive new investment to our region. The other area is called business retention and expansion, and that's where we work with existing businesses in a variety of ways to help them to grow right here in our region. And so what we're going to focus on tonight is really our business connection program. And what that is, it's the name of our business retention and expansion call program where we meet with companies. And as you know, we do have targeted industries, and so we work with primary industries from manufacturing, from ag technology, corporate office, back office, and defense, and then also logistics. And so when we're talking primary industries and these calls that we go on, they're very specific to those industries. We also have communities that do calls with their existing businesses in other, like retail and sales and service and those kinds of areas as well. So what I'm talking about really is that primary industry that we do the calls with. So I do want to mention that in addition to these, it's called a synchronous program, and it's a data set or a database that was created on a national scale for these types of business calls, and it's a questionnaire of very set questions regarding all sorts of things related to quality of workforce, how are things going, do they have any pinch points, are there any issues within hiring, workforce, those types of things. And so what we do is we take the information from these interviews and we put them into this database. And so we're able to look at trending and things that are going on within our region. But one of the really nice beauties of this system is that we can compare ourselves to other regions throughout the country and how are we doing in productivity in other areas such as that. So when we're trying to talk to an attraction company or we're trying to bring them in, we're able to say we have one of the most highest productive workforces in the country based on real live data. So it's a system. We go out, we meet with them, and it is, you know, checking boxes, but it's also putting it into a database, and it's also helping us looking at trend information. But what we really are getting out of these interviews is what we call technical assists. We're hearing from the companies what are those things that they need. And so we actually come out of those meetings, and we always have a city partner with us, a city staff person in these meetings. And we come back with like 2, 3, sometimes 4 items that we have to follow up on. And they can range from hey, I have a pothole in front of my business. Can the city help with that? Hey, I need a new stop sign. Hey, I'm having trouble with workforce. Can you help me identify training opportunities? And then we link them in like with the community colleges. Just a variety of things. But the thing that we're seeing is really in these interviews, it's not just checking boxes anymore. It's really about helping those companies solve those issues that are identified during these meetings. And so what we saw last year, for example, we conducted 145 business connection interviews, and out of that, we had over 426 technical assists that came out of that. And so those are really great opportunities for the city, for example, to help some of your businesses solve some issues. And it also helps us do a little bit of lead generation. For example, what Jeff was talking about, identifying companies that want to grow and what are some assistance programs that can help them grow. Do they have infrastructure needs? Those types of things. So it's a really good opportunity, those technical assists, in really helping the companies grow. So the other thing that we get out of that, though, is from there in front of you is our annual report. And so you can kind of see from that what are some of the things that we heard in this last year as far as like sales, and are sales up, are they down? Are there issues going on that we might be able to help identify for our advocacy program, for example? I think last year we heard the 3 main issues were workforce, legalization of marijuana, and how do you deal with that in terms of being an employer. And then the third thing was the minimum wage in Illinois. And so with that, we're able to actually then turn that over to government advocacy folks and say, hey, here are some things going on that our businesses need some help with. And then we try to identify ways to help them solve those issues. For example, with the actually recreational marijuana, we did a workshop on how to handle some of the new employment issues or rules related to the January 1st new legislation. And so the other thing too is that like with workforce, that is a huge issue for us, for our employers in identifying skilled labor. And you can see like on the annual report, it breaks it down by not only what are the workforce issues, but what kind of categories are we seeing the greatest need in. And skilled labor was 48%, technical labor 28%, and unskilled labor is 12%. So from that, we're actually putting on a regional program with some of our other partners in identifying a talent attraction, retention, and expansion program with our community colleges, and then also with like United Way and some of our high schools. So it's these interviews help us identify things that we can do as a region to hopefully address issues that are on of regional concern. So Sally gave me a couple of other questions that I'm supposed to answer, right? And I'm getting off script here. So how businesses are chosen for inclusion. We, again, like I said, targeted industries. And so we have actually state of Illinois. They give us a list of the companies they want us to meet with. Mid-American Energy, they give us a list of the people they want us to meet with. Then we have kind of this list of target industries of where we want to go in the next year. And then the city actually has a list of companies they want to meet with. So what we do is we get together with city staff and we say, okay, here's the list. You tell us what's your priority, where should we be going, and who should we be meeting with. And so we do meet monthly with the economic development staff. And as a part of that, we talk about meetings we've been on, meetings that we're going to, and then also those technical assists that I talked to you about. But really the identification of the companies, at the end of the day, it really is the city that makes the final decision. How many businesses were included on the list in 2017 or 2019? 70. And then how many businesses were visited in 2019? There were 17. And who chooses which Molines are visited each year? And again, the final priorities are selected with our staff and your city staff. And so far this year, we've completed 7 interviews, and we're working with staff to identify the priorities for toward 2020. And so I think I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Again, though, this is really in partnership with your staff. And again, we're setting up the interviews and we're getting out there, but we work in partnership coming out of those meetings as far as who assignments, as far as who does what in the next actions, and then again keeping track of that in our monthly meetings.
Thank you, Liz. Alderman Schoonmaker has a question for you.
So in these meetings that you've done in Moline, you've worked with our staff. Has our staff accompanied you to these meetings?
Yes.
Okay. And that's pretty consistent. Has that been that way for years, or?
For years, absolutely for years. Right, we had kind of the city administrator, we met in August to kind of go through a priority list with the former city administrator, and she actually attended a few of those meetings with us. But typically it's been the economic development staff, or traditionally I should say. And then right now we have, I think it's Tara Osborne has been attending most of those after the economic development administrator left. So she's been attending those. And then I know like Chris actually attended some of those in the past as well. And I think Jeff has been, I mean, we bring them in, right? No, so it's a collaborative thing, but typically I can't think of a time that city staff has not been involved.
Alderman Nguyen has a question for you as well.
Sure.
Thank you, Liz. This is great information to help us understand everything that's going on. So the list that you have for the city of Moline was, you say 70?
It's about 70, yes.
And that was a list that our staff had provided?
Well, we have, again, the state of Illinois told us who we're going to see. There's about 31. And then we had, I think our list, the outside was probably about 20 or so. And then the city came up with ideas. And again, it's only those primary industries. So like downtown, if there's service, retail, some of those in the past. Moline Center, for example, has done some interviews with a different interviewing tool, but it's really the same thing through Synchronous. So we have opportunities, I think, to have other interviews that are outside of that 17 to 25 that you guys get.
And then is there typically like a threshold, like, okay, we go and we meet with people, they need to have at least 10 employees or have so much revenue, or is it just basically the conversation where we think that this is somebody we need to just go talk with? Or?
Well, again, it's through the targeted, our targeted list, and then also in the past, like in the case of like Mid-American Energy, they will want like certain utility users. State of Illinois has companies that they want to target that they might not have been in to visit for a while. So we alternate. We obviously don't see all the same companies in the same year, but that list is really flexible. We can, if there's somebody you want to see this year, we can add it to the list and make an appointment to get in.
Alderman Berg has a question.
So, Liz, thank you for this good information. If of this, the 145 companies visited, Illinois had 41%. Do you show like what our percentage is for Moline?
You had last year 17 last year.
Okay.
I think, so what we did last year is we put together a distribution of that 145. The economic development directors and then Quad City First kind of came up with a formula of distribution. We used to do like a per capita. If you have this population, you're going to get, and we're going to do 100 this year, you'll get this. Last year, they looked at, instead of per capita, they looked at like your industries. So the number of industries within those primaries. So you might have more than, for example, like a Moline, because of the number of industries within your community. So I think last year, your total was 23, the goal, and 17 were completed.
Okay. And then, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is there a reason why Iowa's 59 and Illinois is 41?
Yeah, probably because of the number of industries, quite frankly, Davenport has a lot more in primary industries than any other community, more than Bettendorf, more than Rock Island, more than Moline and East Moline. And so that's how that distribution was done within the per industry ratio.
But we can add to our list, correct? So you guys will visit if we add to our list?
Well, we have a maximum, okay? So last year we did 145, that was our goal. This year we're shooting for 100. And the reason why is we're trying to get more technical assists and work those versus just getting in and doing interviews. But this year, I think the goal is 100 for the Quad City First Board established, so.
So that'd be a less percentage for Moline then?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Alderman Moyer, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you. This is interesting. I was just curious on your website because, again, this is probably Quad City wide.
Yes.
Davenport and Iowa. Does your website, does it maybe break it down a little bit more so we can look at specifics for city?
I can break that down. We can break that down for you. One thing that when we go in to meet with the company, we say it's confidential, and we do things in the aggregate. So we don't want to just pinpoint like a specific issue, like in a report like that. But your city staff's with us, and so they can hear what the issue might be, and then we can take care of it. But we can break down. Of those 17 companies that were visited, what was heard, and have a similar breakdown like that.
Okay, thank you.
And I can do that.
Can I add something?
Yes.
So with doing the 145 last year and then 100 this year, what we wanted to do was do like group settings. And when I met with Sally just this past week, it was, can we look at maybe doing like a neighborhood setting, including businesses, gathering 10 businesses to come in and have conversations in certain areas, because I believe that was done in the past.
Yes.
And resurrecting things, to have more touches with businesses and get engaged with companies that we can't have the one-on-one with, because there's not enough time to do one-on-one with everybody. We want to, for sure, but have more engagement, and so maybe have, group settings or network or neighborhood meetings or something in that way, if we can't do the one-on-one.
Yeah, and so this is a survey, and it takes about an hour, and so that's the point, it's that this is not your only way of getting out with meeting with your companies. This is just really more of a sophisticated tool that we use, and we put in the database and we do analysis. But the idea of having more engagement and more touches with companies, for example, 2 years ago, I think we did, a lot of times we'll have like maybe there's a geographical issue and we'll have a neighborhood meeting. We did like the I-74 downtown. There was the businesses were really interested in figuring out or hearing about what's going on, and so we had one of these group meetings with the city, and we brought in different like the Illinois Department of Transportation, who presented information on the bridge. So we can do those, and you do have an opportunity then to meet with more businesses in a group setting versus just a one-on-one interview.
And if I could offer, Your Honor, and when our staff person goes out with them, then they're usually just they're just bringing the input in. And then so recently, I know with Cylinder meeting, I know there was at least 4 department directors, then they re-engaged back with them to answer questions, that came out through that connection meeting and that. to, go out and make those direct connections with the
Yes.
boots on the ground.
Yes.
So.
Alderman Parker, you had a
I
question?
kind of think that was similar to what I was going to ask. My question, and maybe I missed it, was of the 145 companies that you met with, you got all this information. Did you go back and follow up to see if their issues were solved?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
so within our tracking system, and again, meeting with your staff monthly, we have an agenda of what are those issues, where are they at, have we solved them, and then we get back to them, absolutely.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Whoops, sorry, Sally. Interrupt your-
Well, thank you, everyone. Did you grab the slide sheet?
I think they're right. Okay.
We can
Oh, do
just
you
go
have
through
them?
it.
What are you looking for? Oh, I don't have that. I have this.
So now we know where we are, what kind of communications we've been involved with, what resources we have. And so my question to you is, where do you want to be? Where does the city of Moline want to be? Are you content with 17 visits a year? We talked about a list of businesses. The mayor and I met last week, and because the mayor owns a small business, she knows that the fire department does a I don't know what they
Friendly
call
survey?
it, a friendly
Friendly visit?
survey. They show up every year anyway at her business, and so she called the fire chief, and the fire chief tells us that there's 1,677 businesses in Moline that they survey every year, inspect, right? Is that what you call it? Inspection. 300 and some are hazmat that get a visit every year. The rest of them are visited every other year. But so we know, and they have a list of all 1,677, I believe the number is. I don't think we're going to make it to visit all of those businesses. So the question is, what kind of business and what types of business are we targeting for proactive communication? And that's my question to you. Traditionally, when you spend staff time, you do follow the model of Quad Cities First, and that is looking at primary job generators. So it may be 10 jobs, it may be John Deere with their 6,000 or 8,000 jobs. We can target whoever you think we should be targeting, but that would be my recommendation. And just let me finish my thought, and then we'll talk. But you have to remember that the list they have of our businesses, I think it's 77, are only the targeted industries. So for instance, finance is not a targeted industry for Quad Cities First. So Vibrant is not on that list. IH Mississippi Valley Credit Union isn't on that list. So we definitely would, if we did this, took on to do some additional visits as a city ourselves, then we would want to add to the list before we looked at it and decided, who we were going to visit. I'm sorry.
So what do you want to accomplish in this part of it? Do you want to brainstorm, or how do you want to facilitate before we open it up to
opinions.
discussion?
What kind of business do you want to visit? And to know that, you sort of have to know what the purpose of the interaction is. Is it just a formal, hey, we're really glad you're here. We're happy you're located in Moline. We hope you stay. If you ever have any problems, please let us know. Or is it a formal visit where you take maybe some pared down version? And as Liz said, this takes an hour this is the synchronous survey. It takes an hour to fill out. It's tedious. I've done it probably 100 times, and we can make it work, but I wouldn't recommend it for city-only visits that Quad Cities First is not participating in.
Liz is like, no.
I agree. I'm absolutely agree.
Okay.
Yeah, she's shaking her head
This
no.
is not the Business Connection Program should not be the city's touch point for their businesses. You should certainly have some kind of program where you're out there meeting with your businesses and not asking them 55 questions or whatever it is we have in our survey. So I think that's what, we can help you, we can help you design questions and do that kind of thing, and maybe even put a little database together, but it might be 5 questions. And then you could have a better opportunity in figuring out who you want to meet with, and then we could even analyze your results for you. But this Business Connection Program is not necessarily your business call program.
Right.
Sally, are you ready? Can we dive in?
Sure.
We're chomping at the bit, Sally.
Well, these are the questions I need you to answer.
Okay.
So what do we want to be, or where do we want to be? We want to know what type of businesses you think should be targeted, the purpose of our interaction, and how often we should be doing it. And these are some suggestions I have on how we get there. And I just mentioned you could broaden the business retention visit list to include businesses from non-target industries. We could choose a designated number of businesses to visit beyond those included in the Quad City First Retention Program. We need to identify the resources required to expand this. So in other words, if we're going to have 100 more visits, how many people is it going to take and how much time is it going to take to do those visits? And we should also, I think, and as Michelle and I talked last week, maybe we should consider offering opportunities for interaction other than one-on-ones. So one-on-ones, we could expand that, but we could also create some activities, as the chamber already has, to do with to survey or invite just Moline businesses to talk to us about a specific subject, or maybe it's grouping those same types of businesses together to talk about their concerns or challenges, or maybe just to thank them for being part of the community.
So now we'll kind of open it up. Those are the things that we want to address this evening, and so we'll kind of facilitate, Sally will help us facilitate a conversation about what we should do next. Alderman Schoonmaker.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Start with, I think what you're doing is wonderful. I don't think that's the vision at all of what we were talking about. I think that needs to continue, and that has a very important place. I think there's multiple lanes here, and I don't want to overthink it. I think it can be very simple. Business is about relationship. And if you have someone who's your contact within the city, you start building a relationship with that person, you're going to be more likely to ask a question, and that can lead to other things. In my opinion, I was going to use the fire visits as an example. We talk to the folks that are doing those visits, and not that they should be out saying, hey, build the city and what are we going to do, but they should be listening for key triggers and have a communication point back. Hey, we heard this 3 different times at 3 different places. Who in Sally's department do we communicate back to, and make sure that then gets tracked, solved, and moved off the list. I think we should have that same communication probably with the police department that are going in and out of businesses every day and people are talking to. But then there also needs to be an executive level, the administrator needs to visit with John Deere, with the hospital, with, several of those. And I really don't, I understand the formality of what you do and why you do it, the two of you. I really don't think that's what fits with the city. I think it's a conversation and a relationship again, that how do we get to know each other? And, with John Deere, it's probably multiple visits because you've got multiple departments that are doing all kinds of different things, multiple facilities doing all kinds of different things. And you touch base, and you have maybe with them it's twice a year that you touch base with somebody. But at the same time, somebody else in your organization is touching base with somebody at John Deere at a different level. And I think it's a test and go and see how it works, and start something a little bigger than we have today and kind of get the ball rolling, and we'll see where it goes from there. I don't think you can, I'm not criticizing what you're asking at all, but I don't think you can solve this. You have to experiment with how do we build these relationships.
So what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it's more of an informal process.
I think so. I definitely think so.
Let's go to coffee. I want to take you out to lunch.
I'd love to see your factory. I'd love to see your business.
Let me tour your business.
I'm interested in what you do. Yeah, people, that's a very important piece of, and then maybe our staff sees something like this doesn't seem right. Can I have JD's guys come down and take a look at this, because this seems like a city, maybe, who knows?
So what types of businesses would you suggest we should be visiting? Are we looking at size? Are we looking at importance to the community?
I want to dig into that because I think it's important to. I mean, I think we'd probably almost be best off to do a random selection because if you just focus on the larger employers, you're missing a whole spectrum of huge growth opportunity, and you obviously can't go to all of the mom and pop shop. But if you hit 5 of them, they probably have consistent experiences and consistent issues that you can, understand and kind of project onto the rest of that segment. So I would recommend getting all over the place, not even looking at a specific industry, because we're looking for balanced growth. Alderman Schoonmaker, did you?
I agree. I think job creation and retention has to be, there's certain places that are going to, that should elicit a regular visit. And it shouldn't matter if we visited them last year or not. We want to keep those lines of communication open because they're such a big player in our city. John Deere, for example. There's other places. Jeff does a great job in the downtown. Well, maybe we don't need to look too much in the downtown. Jeff's already got that. So let's take some of these other folks and focus them somewhere else. And then let's lean on our resources that are out visiting all these businesses anyways. And whether that means training your folks to listen, hey, as we were going through this process, we heard these folks complaining about this. Well, there's a complaint, it shouldn't sit idly. It should get back to some point that filters and sends somebody out and deals with it.
I have a meeting with Marsovi this Friday, and the specific purpose of the meeting is that our town twin, Osbach, those folks are coming. They're sending a delegation in late April, early May of 20 people. They want me to help coordinate a meeting for them. They are the Vertkin people, and they want to have a meeting with John Deere. So I'm meeting with Mara. But I'm going to meet with Mara. But we're going to talk about that. What else, when you're having those casual interactions, because those are the interactions you should have with John Deere. You shouldn't have some weird formal, hi, how are you? It should be productive conversations that what else could I be talking about with her when I'm there to take advantage of that interaction. And when we're interacting in our community, I'm kind of getting excited because I'm thinking, as alderman and as mayor, when I interact with people, I often give them my card and say, if there's anything going on in your business, please reach out to me, let me know. But maybe we'd be more thoughtful about that and go out into our individual wards and me into the, whatever, other areas of heavy commercial population and just do that. Did you have something, Alderman Wayne?
Yeah, I think to piggyback on this, kind of an amalgamation of all of these things. I mean, I think that there is, if you think about it as a hierarchy, there's the ones that you're going to spend time, hey, let me go through your factory, do all of those things, all the way down to the ones that you're just going to pop in, say, hey, thanks for being here in Moline, here's my card. But I think we should go one step further, and if they want to give us the information, great, but get their contact information, and whether it's starting a distribution list or, because then we can start to build on touches with them, giving stuff of value, say, hey, we just budgeted $140,000 in a revolving loan fund to do this. That's a program we've had for the last 4 or 5 years and haven't given out a dime with it. There's resources we want to give out. We want to help the facade improvement program do all those things because we're kind of in some ways weirdly starting from scratch with this. And so, I think we trust you to come up with where those, break points are or whatever. But I envision this 5 years from now, because we're not going to get it all done this year. But maybe in 5 years, we've created a distribution list. We've marked everybody off the list, and maybe we've hit all 1,600 in some way or fashion. And like I said, maybe it's just walking in that strip mall. Hey, how's it going? We're just, thanks for being here. We've got some information. Here's a handout. We'd love to put you on our distribution list of additional stuff. And so they know, and they know, hey, this is somebody I can call when I have this issue with the sidewalk outside of my, has had a barrier here for 13 months, and who do I call?
Alderman Parker?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
Was
okay?
someone gonna say?
Oh, no,
Oh, sorry, Michelle.
No, that's
Go
okay.
on.
So getting their contact information, and thanking them for their business, and then also asking them about their successes, doing ribbon cuttings without the chamber. But having their contact information is something we've talked about internally is, if there's a disaster, if there's some sort of emergency that you need to have the contact information is a great way to reach out.
I think we have that.
You have all that
yeah.
information?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. That's one of the reasons why I think the fire department wants that information, other than you do inspections, but you also want to be able to reach out to people in case there is a hazmat incident. You need to be able to get to certain people.
Alderman Parker?
So, thinking of all the businesses, and I'm sorry, Jeff, is that you back there?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Behind the
How you doing, buddy?
podium.
So, it's just, I was looking around, I was like, I don't think the fire department's here. I don't know why we keep referencing it, but yeah. So, you guys go in and you have your job to do, you gotta do it. Is there a way to have them at each location, they don't even have to sell anything, just hand something out with a, really cool, easy to read, hey, we've got money available in revolving loan fund, reach out to, just something that the business owner has, they may just be wanting to do a facade or thinking about noodling it around, and all of a sudden they get something, and it's not really the fire department having to sell them, but it directs them to a website or directs them to a person or, something. Then we've actually done something of value with all these contacts other than make sure that the building has sprinklers and it's safe and the exit signs are lit and all the stuff that you guys have to do. Just on the way out, hey, we really appreciate the fact that you've invested in Moline. Here's some more information that may help you. And I don't know if that's something that they would be willing to do.
Tell them to.
I can speak to, there's some other business owners in here, but it's a pretty stressful experience when the fire truck shows up at your, at your shop. And you're like, oh, gosh, no, great, hi, guys. And then you kind of are trying to rush it through. But I gotta say, it might be kind of friendly if they could say, I just wanted to give you this contact person at the city if you have any issues that, the city can help you with. Here it is. But they may not be willing to do that because it can be kind of stressful, that interaction. Alderman Schoonmaker?
The other piece is clearly not everyone is comfortable at doing that kind of work or good at it. So, you've got Chris who says, I love this. There's going to be people like that, and there's going to be other people that are going to need to practice a little bit with, maybe they go with Chris and learn how he does it, or maybe they go with you, depending on the level. And you just make sure that we have a little bit of training with how that goes, and the always having the ask at the end. What can we do? What else can the city be doing for you?
Alderman Burke?
Is there a chance that maybe I know, Jeff, this is for you, Jeff, Chief, if with that spreadsheet that you have of the 1,677, I don't know if there's a way or someone here can do that where they can break it into our wards so we all know, he's got 50, he's got.
I think we can manipulate the software to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, Sally and I were talking about that. It'd be kind of cool to drop pins on a map and have their contact information if we can
Because
do
even
it.
like the aldermen, obviously the majority of us work in the city of Moline, so even, popping in when we go out to eat or you have coffee or something, it's visiting some of these places or, buying, whatever. Can you guys pay attention?
I don't know. There's a ruckus going on over here.
We had, regarding the tree situation, we had ward meetings in the Old Town and Uptown area, and I'm not so certain that would go over so well based on how the tree meetings went, so.
What, interacting with people?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't let Alderman Williams go out?
Or Dave.
But also, honestly, I did like
You carry those.
Michelle's point about like doing them in groups and having like your neighborhood, yours and Jeff Manus's, is a good group neighborhood, but what about business meetings like that? Or another thing I thought is when you mentioned having Jeff carry, maybe like the City of Moline magnets, those magnets that have like the recycle and all that up, maybe something like that, telling them about the revolving loan fund, the facade improvement, and just here's a magnet for your whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed this afternoon in the run-through for this, JD and Jeff and I. And the other touch that used to send a lot of leads to us in economic development in Rock Island was the restaurant inspector. Because they're in, of course, all the restaurants, all the eateries, probably grocery stores that have eateries in the community. And there was one particular bakery that really needed to replace their equipment. They were passing inspections, but barely. And so we got the lead from the restaurant inspector. He said, you should talk to these guys because they could expand. They're very busy, and it worked out really well. So there's and JD's crew is out and about and communicating. So maybe it's just us thinking about training all of our employees that are out in the community, whether they're whether they're Chris and they're talking to someone about obtaining an easement, or they're collecting garbage, or they're inspecting a restaurant, or they're the fire, the police, or whoever. But maybe just come up with a little sheet to share of things that we think we should be communicating to our business community.
Well, I think it would mean a lot to our businesses that are located in Moline. Just an expression of gratitude for them being in Moline is enough. When I have that interaction with the city of Rock Island and they just express gratitude, and I can put a face with that, it's quite nice and helpful. Alderman Parker.
Jeff, I know you've reached out to everyone in the Main Street area. What's your process of touching base and understanding what their needs are and helping them? Because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If you've already got kind of a plan on how you've done it, let's just expand it.
Certainly a great question, and I talked a lot about over the last 9 to 10 months all of the spikes in football I've been able to do, but my office isn't necessarily perfect in the same breath. When you say I've reached out to everyone in the Main Street program, I still have a long way to go. There's still a lot of touch points with the downtown businesses that I yet to and need to establish that relationship, that friendship, that trust to get them also moving in the same direction that so far, for the most part, I've been working really hard to keep everybody in the same direction. But to more directly answer your question, I within my first month worked with Don Goff to take a number of I guess Excel spreadsheets of contact information for downtown business owners, subscribers to the MolineCenter.org newsletter campaign, and kind of sorted through them to develop a comprehensive, essentially Microsoft Outlook contact list that when these things start coming down the pipe, whether it's the Illinois Route 92 workshop that was last night, or the merchant meetings, or the list goes on, I'm constantly, whether it's every week or every other week, or at the very least once a month, communicating with them just to kind of keep the Main Street and what we're doing towards the front of their mind. And then in addition to that, there's of course the 3 boards, those being SSA 5, SSA 6, and the Main Street Commission, all of which have very, very important downtown stakeholders that participate in that, from large to small. The large business owners with representatives from Heart of America, all the way down to the owner of Cafe Fresh, for example. So
very important person.
Yes. Yeah.
We want to focus on the cupcakes that she brings.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just some of what I've been doing in the first 9 to 10 months, but there's a lot of improvement that I look forward to doing as I get better and more capable at this job.
Thank you.
So Sally, I think when we were talking about it and kind of developing this idea, what we want to do is just be supportive of our businesses. That's our council goal. Mm-hmm. And so could you maybe guide us about, maybe there's a little program that we could try for a couple of months and kind of have a target of, we're going to do this, whatever you propose, and we're going to staff it this way. You're going to, lean on council this way. And then we can try it, see what kind of results we get, and then go from there. What do you think about that? Because I'd hate to like have some kind of big splash and it's not sustainable and it's kind of silly and we don't get anything out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of a trial period. I
Yeah.
think that's a good idea. And what I've heard is we should go through the list. We have 70 some identified. We can add the ones we've been working with and the ones we're aware of. And maybe some of you would want to look at the list too, just to make sure we've got all the, what I would call critical businesses on the list. And find a way to schedule some meetings with them over time. Look at our resources in terms of staff time. How many of those do we think we can realistically do? And let's start with the ones, a lot of these businesses we're talking to anyway on a regular basis. Maybe they've got a project we're working on. Well, there's no reason we have to go out and visit them when we're talking to them every other week anyway. But we'll make the list. We'll see if it's possible to do those visits and what that schedule would look like. And again, it's just we just want to know we appreciate your presence in Moline. We're glad you're here, and we're here for you if you need us. Here's our card. Something very simple. And then I would say that your suggestion of visiting some smaller businesses, smaller job generators is a good one as well. So we'll look at some of what we think might be emerging businesses that have a potential for growth, or they're in a market, they're making something that is critical for us, and we think that product, and we can work with I'm sure Liz and Michelle to come up with that list. And then we also should consider how we correspond with our businesses every day through our staff that is out in the community, whether that's restaurant inspector, public works employees, fire, police, just to let our businesses know that we appreciate them.
Alderman Schoonmaker, did you have something?
I love that. That's great. The other thing I was going to say was some kind of tracking mechanism. Since we have that, there should be some kind of, not complicated, keep it very simple, but it'd be kind of silly if 4 different people in 3 weeks ended up calling on the same place and saying, we're glad you're here in Moline. I guess it wouldn't be all bad. But
Really glad. We're harassing you at this point.
Really,
and then, that's
really
harassment.
glad.
And then the last piece would be like to empower your performers. So Chris and I met today with Ryan as well at a business that's looking at expanding, and if they're out already, instead of taking the time and making extra trips and setting something up, well, hey, this is a good opportunity. We're right here. Let's knock off 2 businesses. So empower your people to have a little initiative to, let's just go do this while we're right in the neighborhood and hit a couple businesses right here. And, and of course those would be the smaller places where you're not going to walk into John Deere's corporate headquarters like that, but you're going to walk into, we were right next to the Verizon store and a couple other places that you could have just walked into and introduced yourself and made a little, you're already out, it's another 10 minutes, and then track all that.
Anybody, Alderman Wynn?
Yeah, and if we can be resources as well, I mean, I think we try to get out a little bit, and so maybe if we have access or know what your list looks like and who you've hit and everything, say, oh, well, I can swing by and I'll talk with Butch Trevor and do whatever and help to knock some of those things off the list so that we're efficient, because we do have limited resources and we can't do all 1,600 in 1 year. But I think we're starting something which is great. And like I said, it's going to take time to fill it out, but whatever we can do to help with that.
I have a question about our list. It's 77. Liz, do they have to be chamber members, or how does? Okay, so how does the state get the businesses?
They have, so CORE is actually gonna change in the state of Illinois. They're not gonna be doing it again next year, so that's gonna go away.
CORE is the statewide retention visit program where they take and aggregate all of the Quad Cities First and Bloomington, Normal EDC, and Champaign from all over the state and aggregate them.
And that's what state of Iowa has it. They call it Best of Iowa. Well, Illinois is going, their program is gonna go away, so we don't have to worry about their list anymore. Mid-American is not dictating as much as far as like who they want us to see on the Illinois Quad Cities. So really, the 77 or whatever on that list, we can drive a lot more of that, you know, from the city. I don't think you're gonna be stuck. And at the end of the day, it's who you want us to meet with from that list. But those, again, are primary industries. And the reason we look at that versus like the Main Street program is because those are the drivers that are going to ultimately, hopefully, help us in terms of growing our GDP, higher quality jobs, higher quality businesses that help us grow the economy, you know, from a higher level and our job creators. So not that we don't care about retail and service, it's just that we have a focus in a specific area.
Thank you for explaining that. Do you feel like you have adequate direction, Sally?
I do.
It's a little vague. I think we're kind of giving you some freedom to be creative, but I think we're looking for kind of a pilot program and then some feedback of how it went, what adjustments you'd recommend moving forward and launching that way. Is that the consensus of council? Is everybody okay with that plan?
It's a proactive program rather than reactive.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Sally.
Cool.
Thank you so much for supporting this conversation, everybody. Thank you. Is there anything else we want to address before we move off of this work session topic? I would now like to open it up for public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that'd like to address the council. Alex is leaving. She doesn't want to address the council. Okay, so with no further business of the committee of the whole, I'd like to close out of the committee of the whole and we'll go into the council agenda meeting. We will have an invocation, we'll not have an invocation this evening, we'll have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Williams.
Present.
Parker.
Present.
Went.
Present.
Potter.
Present.
Moyer.
Present.
Schoonmaker.
Present.
Waldron.
Present.
Berg.
Present.
Your Honor, I request approval of Committee of the Whole and Council meeting minutes of January 7th, 2020, and appointments made during Committee of the Whole on January 14th, 2020. Resolutions. Council Bill 1003-2020, a resolution authorizing approval of change order number 1 with Walter D. Laud Incorporated for project number 1312, 10th Avenue reconstruction in the amount of $11,419.85.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion by Alderman Parker and a second by Alderman Berg. Roll call, please.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Berg.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
That motion carries.
Non-consent agenda, second reading ordinances. Council Bill 3001-2020, an ordinance amending Chapter 34 Water and Sewers of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 34-2139, Waste of Water pertaining to the city's sewer use ordinance by amending its current text to subsection A and acting one new subsection B.
Motion to approve 3001-2020.
We have a motion by Alderman Parker and a second by Alderman Nguyen. Is there any discussion on this item? Roll call, please.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Nay.
Berg.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
That motion carries.
Resolutions. Council Bill 1004-2020, a resolution authorizing the Community and Economic Development Department on behalf of the City of Moline to apply to the Illinois Housing Development Authority for an Illinois Affordable Housing Trust Fund Single-Family Rehabilitation Round 3 with roof-only option and Disaster Contingency Award grant in the amount of $435,000, and authorizing city staff to do any and all things necessary to apply to the Illinois Housing Development Authority for an Illinois Affordable Housing Trust Fund Single-Family Rehabilitation Round 3 with roof-only option and Disaster Contingency Award grant.
Motion to approve 1004-2020.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Parker and a second by Alderman Nguyen. Is there any discussion on that item? Roll call, please.
Alderman Went.
Aye.
Potter.
Aye.
Moyer.
Aye.
Schoonmaker.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Berg.
Abstain.
Williams.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 abstention.
That motion carries.
First reading ordinances. Council Bill 3002-2020, an ordinance amending Chapter 4 Alcoholic Liquor of the Moline Code of Ordinances by amending Sections 4-3302 to 4-3307, 4-3309, 4-3310, and 4-3315 regarding the retail sale of single-serving containers of certain alcoholic liquors. Council Bill 4001-2020, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a consent agreement between the City of Moline and USCOC of Greater Iowa LLC, a Delaware limited liability corporation, to limit a modification of equipment on city-owned property located at 1531 17th Avenue, Moline. And that is all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you.
So now I'd like to open it up for council business. Is there any council business on Alderman Williams' side? How about Alderman Moyer's side? Alderman Waldron?
Yeah, it's been my privilege to work for the city for 37 years and to be an alderman for 4. And rarely have I run across a more dedicated and employee with more integrity than somebody that we have retiring Friday. Mrs. Lori Wilson over there is ending her employment, and being an operations person my whole life in public works, it was all about picking up the trash, doing the potholes and everything. And about 15 years ago, I interacted with the Parks Department, and Lori slowly but surely converted me over to a quality of life person. And that it's not all about operations, that it is a quality of life thing, that you want people to live here, you want people to play here, to recreate here. And due to her mentoring me, I finally got it, and it's an important factor now to me, and I want to thank her for all that she's given to the city these 29 years, is it? And thank you, Lori. It's rare that when you work someplace for 37 years, you form a personal relationship with somebody like I have with Lori, and thank you, Lori, and happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there anything else? Just a business issue. We are circling in on the State of the City date, and so we're looking at May 4th of this year, if y'all want to just kind of put that in your heads, and there'll be a more formal save the date that'll come out. Is that all right? Why are you smiling?
May the 4th be with you.
Can we find that?
Yeah.
That's
It's International Flowers Day.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot that I'll do. Is there anything else you'd like to do, JD? Do you have any business?
I'm getting the look from Lori, so I know she doesn't want me to put her on the spot, but would you guys at least flatter me for 1 minute and let Lori sit here? She was the acting administrator when I was gone, and she let me totally disconnect for my vacation, so it would flatter me if you'd let her sit in this chair for a minute and let me take her picture, please. Please.
That's so fun, isn't it, Lori?
Lori, would you please?
You don't actually have to do what he tells you to.
I'm asking. I'm not telling. I'm asking. Would you do it for me?
You have to do it for me.
Yeah, you'll do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Come on, Lord. Come on. It's not often you're going to be the interim acting city administrator. The acting.
Yes, interim.
The assistant to the assistant.
She's gonna kill you. I know. I'll pay for it later, but.
Hold on. There we go.
Oh yeah, we got.
Wait, hold on. Don't drink it yet.
Well done.
Where are you? What is it?
My turn to my counsel.
Yeah, too much
That
fun.
was cute.
Oh my God. What are you doing?
Hold on. Hold on.
How did this happen?
It's Friday. It was always Friday.
Was it hard?
Yeah.
To have the day wrong?
She wrote into
There you go.
assistant to the assistant.
And as I told staff this morning at the directors meeting, my 29 years has honestly been fun. So I thank the city. They've been a great employer, and I've been honored to serve. Thank you.
You can always come back and
Thank you. JD, you're gonna be dead for that one.
I'll pay for it. That's
Thank
fine.
you, Lori.
It's, she deserved that. That's all I need.
Is there anything else? Any other staff want to address the council this evening? I'd like to open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment this evening?
Wait, can I say something?
Yes.
I got the joy of riding in a snowplow truck this weekend, and if any of you guys should do it. We went to different pockets of the city, just places that I hadn't been before, and we get to see what these guys do. I mean, they really, it was pretty neat, and I kept kidding the guy that I went with. I said, "Did you draw the short straw?" Like, oh crap, who's got to have the alderman with me today? So, but no, it was it was pretty neat to see what these guys do, and leaving their families and being out for 12 hours a day, and how uncomfortable it was after like an hour. I'm like, hey, I'm tired. I want to go home.
Did you have them do your street and driveway?
Absolutely. No.
Yeah, that's what I figured that's the reason she'd do it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. My street and driveway. Yeah.
Drop me off at home.
Speaking of that, so we've had a couple of snow events, but I honestly took it for granted. The coverage this past weekend was so great. I mean, I know the roads were really bad, and I was kind of braced for them to be bad, and they weren't. They did a really good job, so thank you very much.
It's all because of Sonia.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was a tough one because it was raining into snow. Those events terrify me, but you did a really good job.
What's even neater is that I didn't know this, but I don't know if you guys knew this, but they can, like Rod and JD could see where all these guys, all the trucks have been, and now it's going out to the public, so that pretty soon the public's gonna be able to see that when they call in and say, well, they call us and say, no one's been by here to plow in the last, 3 days, we can see when they've gone, and we can show them where to look for it. So it's pretty neat.
Did you miss that presentation? A year and a half ago?
Yeah. It's always good to hear about it again. So I don't think that we have any further business, is that correct? With no further business, I would like to close the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.